Mr. Chairman, we are now recording the meeting and streaming live to YouTube. You may start when you're ready.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Welcome to the Metro Plan Orlando Technical Advisory Committee meeting for October 27th, 2023. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And again, I'm Bill Wharton, the chairman for two more meetings. Just a reminder, since this meeting and our future meetings will be in person, it is important that all TAC members attend our meetings in person in order to have a quorum. Members of the public will still be able to participate virtually, and we encourage them to do so. There are two public comment points in the meeting, one before the action items and a second at the end of the meeting. Members of the public attending in person who want to speak need to fill out a comment card and provide it to Rachel, sitting in front of the monitors on your right. Those attending virtually who wish to speak will use the raise hand feature on the Zoom screen, or if attending by phone, you can hit the *9 to raise your hand and be recognized. We also accepted comments by email before the meeting, and I'll turn it over to Slade now for the agenda review and other comments.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome everyone to the meeting. And also, I think we can say this is about record attendance for TAC. So thank you all for coming. I'm pretty sure we have a quorum today. Bit of TAC housekeeping first. The board, the Metro Plan Orlando board, approved the 2023 apportionment plan at their September 13th meeting. As part of the updated apportionment plan, the board reaffirmed the three-county metropolitan planning area, being Orange, Osceola, and Seminole, and updated the governing board membership based on population increases to include an additional voting seat for Orange County, a new voting seat for the city of St. Cloud, and one new non-voting seat for the Orlando Executive Airport. The board's approved apportionment plan has been transmitted to FDOT for the governor's review and signature. Next, speaking of FDOT, I wanted to let you all know that FDOT has noticed their Sun Trail funding application process. Applications are open until December 30th, 2023. We've included the full formal notice in the general information portion of your packets. You can also visit floridasuntrail.com for more information. So some of you may remember earlier in the year when Metro Plan Orlando underwent the federal certification process. We're happy to blatantly toot our own horns on that by announcing that we have successfully been recertified with 0 corrective actions recommended. If you'd like to read into the report, we've included that in your general information section of the agenda packets as well. Next, FDOT Mobility Week begins today. That runs through November 4th. Mobility Week is an annual cooperative event between FDOT and the local municipal partners to promote awareness of safe multimodal transportation choices. Counties, cities, and transportation agencies host events and offer special promotions to encourage Floridians to try new transportation options. It's a chance for agencies to highlight their achievements, roll out new initiatives, and implement new policies. If any of you would like have Mobility Week events going on in your cities, feel free to give them a shout out during member comments. Next up, Metro Plan Orlando staff is growing again. We have another new staff member joining us today. Maria Padovani has joined Metro Plan Orlando as our new fiscal manager. Maria hails from the Dominican Republic and moved to Winter Garden in 2018. She brings over 15 years of governmental budget and accounting experience from the Department of Homeland Security, City of Altamont Springs, and City of Orlando. Welcome, Maria. And lastly, I want to make you all aware the save the date that we have coming up. It'll be the first installment of our Vision Zero Central Florida Safety Speaker Series, which will start Wednesday, November 15th. The first virtual event is called United on a Quest for Zero Traffic Deaths, which honors World Remembrance Day for road traffic victims, a high-profile global observance to remember the millions who've been killed and seriously injured on the world's roads, and to acknowledge the suffering of all affected. We'll also have MetroPlan staff share what Vision Zero Central Florida is and what we're doing in the region to help eliminate traffic deaths and injuries on our roadways. Leilani and the communications team will be emailing out more information next week. And on the note of safety, I'll turn it over to Mike for our safety moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Slade. Good morning, everyone. October is Federal Highways Pedestrian Safety Month. So focusing on that issue that we've struggled with for many years. Some basic data to set the scene. We average about 78 fatal crashes, pedestrian crashes per year. And that's crashes. Some of them actually have more than one fatality. And as you can see, that's more than a quarter of our total traffic fatalities. And then about another 160 serious injury crashes per year. Of those fatals, over 80% are at night, and over half of the serious injuries are also at night. As we drill down into that, when we look at those nighttime crashes, 2/3 of them are happening away from an intersection. And then when we look at them, irrespective of lighting conditions, more than half are on roads posted at 40 to 45 miles an hour. So again, it's that combination of speed and darkness that is our biggest challenge when it comes to pedestrian safety. Some ongoing research. I had the chance to talk to Dr. Round Van Houten. He helped us to develop the Best Foot Forward program over a decade ago. And he's working, teaches at the University of Western Michigan, and they were looking at serious and fatal pedestrian and cyclist crashes on a number of corridors. And they would actually go out at night with a light meter to see what the lighting conditions were at the actual crash site. And what they found was that even on roads with street lighting, the crashes were often happening in a dark spot where the lighting was not adequate. So that speaks to two different approaches. One is obviously for everyone in this room looking at how well do we light our roads, and can we do a better job of that? And then the other is for the pedestrians themselves. If we are out walking, if you're trying to cross at a point where it's too far to walk to the nearest lit and signalized crossing, if you're going to cross mid-block, at least try to do so where there is some lighting. So go find the nearest street light, which will be a whole lot closer typically than perhaps walking to a signal, and use that lighting to give you that extra level of conspicuity. But for years we've talked about encouraging pedestrians to wear reflectors or have lights on, just somewhat impractical. But everyone's carrying a light these days, right? Just pull this out and you've got a handy light, and it's a pretty bright one, right? So just pulling this out of your pocket and waving it at approaching drivers is another option. So it's my safety moment for this morning. Happy to take any questions. All right. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike. I'll turn it over to Rachel for roll call.
I'll ask all committee members to please keep your microphones off until called and mute again after your name is called. Please say here or present when your name is called. Ebersol for Bates.
Here.
Tefelsky for Bostwick. Butcher for Brock. Carson.
Here.
Cash.
Here.
Casillero.
Present.
Castro.
Here.
Chester.
Here.
Cornelison.
Here.
Coulomb.
Present.
Crandall.
Here.
DeVries.
Present.
Doig.
Good morning here.
Eid.
Present.
Elliott Moore.
Present.
Freel. Price for Gold. Hammer. Hardwick. Hartley.
Here.
Dredge. Kamal. Kane.
Here.
Krug. Lim.
Here.
O'Keefe.
Here.
Parker. Pullum. Richmond.
Present.
Rigby. Robinson. Sanders.
Here.
Senerans.
Here.
Smith.
Present.
Hines for Story.
Here.
Sudemeyer. Thorpe. Wharton.
Here.
Martello for Williams. Yeargame.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the roll call. We do have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Rachel. We have 4 common presentations. If you have questions of the presenter, stand your nameplate on end or wave or yell at me and we'll get you your questions. First, we have Mike Wilson and Adriana Rodriguez from Metro Plan to give us an update on the Regional Vision Zero Action Plan.
Good morning again. So our Vision Zero plan proceeds. Give you a little update on the work to date. Doing a number of things at the regional level that we've completed, such as a graphic standards package that helps all the local plans to kind of get a leg up on not having to necessarily develop all of this themselves, or although they can certainly modify and customize that, but helpful from at that level. And a really key thing from the core works standpoint is that we've completed the high injury network, which includes quite a few roads and then the top 30 intersections in the region. And those were selected based on looking at all the crashes, but then weighting the fatal and incapacitating injury crashes with a much higher weight, and also weighting vulnerable road users with their own weighting score, recognizing that even though you might have a corridor with a lot of non-motorist crashes and maybe not very many incapacitating, but those always have the potential for becoming incapacitating or fatal, because we know, the percentage of non-motorists that result in those serious injuries is much higher. When we look at the data from the high injury network and the network overall, what we find for that network is that half of our crashes are happening on about 4% of our roads. So that 4% is what we're seeing in our high injury network. Looking at where these crashes are happening, and I'll call out this acronym of KSI is what we're going to be using for killed and serious injury. That notice on this chart that 40 to 45 mile an hour range is where we really see the disproportionate representation of serious crashes. In this chart, the blue bars are the percentage of centerline miles at that posted speed. And so you see on 25 mile an hour streets, relatively few, and then the inverse at 45. We're also looking at behavior and who's involved in these behaviors. On this chart, we're looking at speed and impairment, and you'll see that those in their 20s and 30s are overrepresented for speeding related and impairment related crashes. So the blue and green dots are the percent of drivers with a driver's license, and then percent of driver's licenses for that age group, and then or for the entire population, and then the percent of impaired or speeding crashes. We've looked at also at other data sources. The Florida Injury Surveillance System gives us data on pedestrians and cyclists in crashes that do not involve a motor vehicle. So with the pedestrians, many of those are scooter crashes that get classified as pedestrian. And then we also got data from Sunrail, because again, if there's not a motor vehicle involved, there's no crash report. So an interesting finding out of that injury data was that 60% of bicyclist hospital admissions and 20% of deaths did not involve a motor vehicle, which speaks to training and injury prevention for those users. So key takeaways when we look at all of our data, when we're looking at risk and severity, those are increasing with posted speeds, number of lanes and traffic volumes. The three of those tend to go together. And then when from a land use standpoint, looking at the suburban commercial arterials, where we have all of that plus a lot of turning movements. Roads in disadvantaged communities tend to have higher crash rates, both for motorist and non-motorist crashes. And then the obvious issues of speeding, distraction, aggressive driving, and impairment. We are developing a hub site. This just went live, vision0cfl.gov. So this has all the resources, both for the public and for the local planners. This is our information sharing platform. All of the documents that are in process, which is access restricted, and then once they're finalized, we'll move to our regular public MetroPlan site, as well as other helpful resources for the general public. We'll have a calendar of events, both for meetings and for outreach events, including the public engagement and public engagement on the site itself, both explaining what the system is, what the program is, and getting feedback from the public. This is a sample of what the data dashboard is going to look like. So we have a GIS-based site where you can drill down into jurisdictions and different crash types and different crash factors and see how the numbers play out. And so all those numbers that you see on the top row will change as you change your selections in the mapping. Some key tasks. Well, actually, this is where I hand over to Adriana Rodriguez, who will fill out the remainder of what we're working on.
Yes, good morning. This is our project schedule for the overall effort. Right now, we're working in identifying non-engineering and engineering countermeasures based on the data analysis, and also working in policy review, which involves looking at existing policies, plans, and best practices. All of these will be completed in the fall of 2023. Moving into winter and spring 2024, we will be working in identifying and prioritizing projects and strategies, and developing the overall action plan document. Vision Zero action plans are underway for the 3 counties within the region and the 19 municipalities listed in this slide. We have deployed our consultants under the GPC contract to work with municipal partners in the development of action plans that are tailored to the specific needs of each of these municipalities. This approach allows us to conduct a comprehensive evaluation and identification of priority projects that could have been overlooked if we only focus in the regional needs. These plans will be completed in May, June 2024 timeframe. This is consistent with the completion of the regional action plan. In terms of next steps, we have our next task force meeting. This is for the regional plan. It's scheduled for November 28th. As I mentioned, all local agency plans are in progress at this moment. For engagement, our hub site is with regional crash data and other project information. is already live. However, we're working to get the dashboard available for the public. It's currently not available, but it will be there soon. So if you go and look at the hub side, hopefully you will see the dashboard soon. In terms of tasking project in progress, as mentioned, we are working in detailed crash analysis and the policy benchmarking guidance. That concludes the presentation, and we're happy to take any questions that you may have.
I mostly have a comment. I just wanted to shed light on the incredible work that this team has been putting together from MetroPlan and the consultant. I sit on a lot of regional and national Vision Zero groups, and I really feel like this team is putting best practices to work with this plan. I'm so excited about it, especially when it comes to humanizing language, highlighting the switch to KSI, killed and seriously injured, is an important step for how we conceptualize this. I did want to give a little bit of context to the cyclist death and make sure that we're not just focusing on cyclist behavior, that we still have a role to play when there's no motor vehicle involved in those crashes, whether it be guide wires, utility boxes, conditions of our trails. As a point of privilege to share, my sister was involved in a serious bike crash when we were growing up, when she was riding on the sidewalk home from her job, and she clipped a utility box and fractured her skull in several places. So it's not just behavior, it is still design, even if there's no motor vehicle involved. Thank you.
I think this is very important and maybe very difficult to get out to the general public, as advertising, television, the paper, those type of things. Is that part of the program too, to get the word out to the just our regular citizens?
We are working right now with all the municipalities to identify what are the best avenues to promote the different outreach events that are part of the plan. We have been working again with each of the local agencies to identify workshop locations, identify the use of social media, identify the some pop-up events at already planned community events. So all of these, we are working closely with communications staff from each of the local agencies, and put together, we're currently working also in putting together public engagement plans for each of these local plans. So that's also tailored to each of the needs of each of the local agencies, and basically what works best for the community, for each of these communities. But basically, yes, we are taking into consideration all of the avenues that work to make sure that we involved every member of the community.
Very good. I can remember, and it's been maybe even last year, DOT ran some commercials on TV. I think were pretty powerful. So I'm just kind of curious if anything like that may be coming along as well.
Yes, we have actually prepared a really nice video that is almost ready to be shared with the community. We'll make sure to send you all the information so you can watch the video where we have where we interview different members of the community on their experience in terms of any safety issues they see around Central Florida, how they what is their experience in terms of a loved one or their own experience having an accident and how that impacted their lives.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? All right, Andrea, thank you very much. Mike, thank you. Next we have Catherine Alexander Corbin with FDOT and gives an update on FDOT's 5-year tentative work program.
Yes, hello, everybody. Good morning. It's that time of the year again, and Kathy Alexander Corbin, Program Management Administrator at District 5, and I'm happy to be here to share information about our tentative work program, which represents fiscal years 25 through fiscal years 29. Many of you might know, or if you don't, our tentative work program is our listing of transportation needs and projects that we have programmed in the upcoming 5 years. And that includes seaport, spaceport, airport, transportation projects, and the activities of studies, of planning, concepts, design, construction, maintenance, as well as operations. We build the tentative work program in collaboration with our local communities, our local partners, regional stakeholders, as well as our MPOs and TPOs. And each of the districts develop their own tentative work program that is then combined for the overall statewide tentative work program and is presented to the legislature and the governor. So some key dates to take note here for this cycle. We have our public comment deadline is November 3rd, so next week. We had the central office submittal of the final tentative work program to the executive office of the governor, December 26th. The Florida Transportation Commission will hold a public hearing on the tentative work program January 8th of 2024. And then the legislative session begins January 9th and runs through March 15th. And ultimately, this takes us to approval and adoption of our tentative work program, which then becomes the adopted work program July 1st of next year. We're still seeing significant impacts of cost increases in our projects. This slide just gives you kind of a preview of some of what we have seen. We have seen over the last year more competitive bids against our projects. We're seeing more than just one response, which is great. And price is stabilizing some, but not reducing. It still continues to go up, probably not much different than what you're seeing in local agencies. Significant factor in 2023 this year is we did have contract price adjustments. This was material costs that were paid out to contractors so we can keep our projects going to a tune of $363 million. Each year, the department updates their cost per mile for various types of roadway typicals. And I just posted, I pulled the 4-lane rural divided roadway here just so you can see what kind of increases we're talking in terms of material costs. And for new construction, it's about 17% increase from 2022. And most significantly, though, is our resurfacing projects. They have gone up since 22, close to 26.5, a little bit over that. Significant increases over the last year, not as volatile as it was in previous years, but you can see it has gone progressively up from 2021. So taking these considerations into building our tentative work program, we also had some other critical factors that come into play as we're building and balancing. The allocations and our revenue growth are still very conservative. We're not seeing significant increases on those when it comes to the revenues to support our work program. Clearly, that is the backbone for any of the transportation needs that we have planned for the upcoming 5 years, and they're so low, they're really not absorbing the cost increases that we're seeing. Surely they are helping with that shortfall, but not sufficient enough for those 17 or 27% increases on some of our projects, but it does help. Another significant factor for the building of the tentative this cycle was the resurfacing program adjustments. We are required to carry a certain level of payment quality standards by Florida statute, and the department had to go back and revise the lane mile requirements for all the districts, as well as the formula allocation that we receive for those projects. And for District 5 alone, we are required now to resurface more lane miles, and our formula was adjusted. So we did have impacts on what money is available for those resurfacing projects. So it required for us to go back and look at our resurfacing program and really take a strategic approach of what we can include in those projects. We normally like to include other items besides just the pavement, because you're going out there once every 15, 17, 18 years. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that across the board. So it's a very strategic look at what we need to do to maintain the integrity of the pavement because of the resurfacing requirements, and then take certain projects based on what is needed on a case-by-case basis. We have 192 lettings planned for the upcoming 5 years. Over half of those are resurfacing. So it's going to be a lot of resurfacing projects for our district. Another item that was significant for building the tentative was going back and restoring some of those responsible contingency levels that have been sacrificed, I think, over the last couple of years. Probably like many of you all have taken your contingency, not by choice, but just because of the bid results, to really low levels, critical low levels. That has been the case at District 5. So we really made a concerted effort to go back through and just restore those, knowing that we're still going to have cost increases. And so we need to be able to have funding there to absorb some of those. We took all of that into account, also in support of our FDOT Compass, which is what you see there on the right-hand side. These are all important projects. We understand that. Taking community as the center of that. Safety is the top priority for the department. We want to make sure that we continue to endorse and harden our resiliency, strengthen the supply chains, leverage technology in our projects, as well as develop the workforce. And each year it's a real challenge trying to balance the work program, especially when we have these type of cost increases and what's available from year to year. What you're seeing here, deletions, these are projects that got deleted from the work program. And none of these were due to funding though. So just to want to go ahead and just go through that so you're aware of those. The ones on the left-hand side, one is for Orange County and the other is for Osceola. The top project is being absorbed into another project that is already programmed in the current year. So that's the work isn't being deleted, it's just absorbed in another project. The bottom project, Osceola, these were preventive maintenance for culvert rehabs that we were taking care of, rehabilitations on culvert structures. Those projects, that level of work actually is being absorbed into the moving forward of forward limits for I-4, as well as the CFX project. So again, work is not deleted, just placed into a different project. On the right-hand side, Seminole Orlando Sanford Airport did delete 2 capital grant projects or funding that they had. That was at request of the Aviation Authority. Part of the balancing, like I mentioned, is what's available year to year and the projects that we can accommodate. Again, nothing that was deleted. We do have to go through and balance out. We have to make sure that we meet program areas, targets, and project needs against what is the available funding. So that sometimes often requires that we have to move projects from one year to the other. This year, we minimized that deferral to just 1 year. Just from a district perspective, our fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. So it could be a matter of just a month, really, for go from 1 year to the other. Here you see the deferrals in Orange County on the left-hand side, 434 Forest City from State Road 424 Edgewater to Seminole County line. Construction and the construction support, which is the CEI phase, were deferred from 27 to 28. There's a drainage improvement project on Mawire and State Road 50 or Colonial Drive. That project, the construction for that project was deferred from 26 to 27. On the left-hand side at the top, we have State Road 423 from Kingswood Drive to Anderson Street. That's an intersection improvement project. The construction phase on that was deferred from 25 to 26. And bottom right, we have Osceola County, John Young Parkway, 1792 is Pleasant Hill Road. This is an intersection improvement project. The right-of-way and the construction phase on that was deferred 1 year for each of those. Continuing with one more work program balancing deferral. This was US 1792 from Ivy Miss Lane to Avenue A. This was an add lanes and reconstruct that. This is just the design phase, however, not construction. The design was deferred from 26 to 27. Then we have several projects that were deferred at the request of the local agencies. And you see we have one from Osceola. It's an urban corridor improvement project that was deferred from 25 to 26 and the right of way from 27 to 28. And then the projects on the right, these actually did defer a little bit further than just 1 year. These are projects with Winter Spring, the city of Winter Springs. This was sidewalk project. Both are sidewalk projects. The construction on those and the CEI were deferred from 26 to 28. Here's the overall 5-year outlook of the funding that is programmed for the counties within Metro Plan, Orange, Osceola, and Seminole. And this represents federal, state, and local funding. As you can see, we're looking over $3 million overall. Orange County and Osceola do benefit from the higher dollar figures from the moving forward finance programming that is on that was just released. So that's why you see Osceola so high. And Orange, we have several projects over on the east side of State Road 50 that are also driving those figures up. So for Orange County, $1.2 billion, Osceola, 1.6, Seminole, 241 million, for that total of over $3 billion for the region. Breakdown for our work mixes or work types, if you would. Safety projects, this would be your sidewalks, maybe intersection improvements, traffic operations type projects, drainage improvements. Total for that across the region, $220 million. Capacity improvements, over $1.5 billion. Preservation, this is where we're talking about our resurfacing lane mile requirements that we have to keep up the quality standards, as well as our bridge repairs and rehabilitation and possibly replacements. $272 million there. Multimodal projects that we have in the upcoming 5 years, over $692 million. Operations, over $83 million. Bike ped type projects, over $112 million. And miscellaneous is basically doesn't fall in any of those criteria above it. So $197 million. We bring some key projects. We won't bring all of them. The list is extensive. So what we like to do is introduce projects that are just new to the upcoming 5 years, as well as maybe some high dollar figure projects and some key projects that we know are pertinent to our locals. I mentioned that resurfacing work program is really heavy for District 5. Here you see a couple of them for Seminole County and Orange County. Top one is along State Road 436. The next one is on 434. These are projects that are close to $10 million, slightly over. The design for these are in the first year with construction in the second year. Orange County, you have a project on State Road 434 from John Young Parkway to Edgewater, $9 million on that. That is also designed in the first year with construction in the third year. And another one, Orange County, State Road 15, US 1792 from Lee Road to Seminole County line. So design on that as well in 25, construction in 27. I will mention that, we're very heavily loaded for resurfacing. Right now, 33 resurfacing projects are planned within Orange, Osceola, and Seminole. So that's almost a third of our lettings that we have for the district. Carrying with Orange County resurfacing, State Road 500, US 441, 1792 from Osceola County line to north of Caroni Drive. That's also a design in 25 and construction in 27. We have some really big construction projects in the first year of the upcoming. These began design last year or the previous year. For Osceola County, US 192, Vine Street from Bamboo Lane to Main Street. That's construction in our first year, our lockdown, what we'll call the upcoming lockdown, close to $33 million. And another one in construction over $27.5 million for 192 from east of Harmony Square to east of Wall Turkey Lane. And then we have another one that's just beginning its stage of design. It'll be designed in 25, construction in 27, State Road 600, north of Old Dixie Highway to south of Country Boulevard. Key project you see here, we have Shingle Creek Trail South. This is a bike path trail projects. We have construction of this. The first one is in 25, over $9 million. And then the next one is in fiscal year 26, over $9.8 million. There is additional $21 million of Metro Plan supported funding for construction of other bike trails within the 5 years. And there's about $3 million worth of design and concept that will be underway in the upcoming 5 as well for additional bike path trail projects. A couple of urban corridor improvement safety projects within Orange County. Left-hand side, Gore Street, urban corridor improvements. On the right-hand side, you have Rock Springs Road from North Public Entrance to Lester Road. A design is funded on the right-hand side. Sorry, I switched left and right. Let me start with the left. Preliminary engineering funding in 29 for that project along West Gore Street. Close to $3 million, their program in the upcoming 5. And then on the right, we have design and construction funded in the upcoming 5 years, over $5.8 million. These are both local agency projects with the city of Orlando. Right. Here's a significant Seminole Wekiva Trail pedestrian tunnels project at State Road 434 and State Road 436. Construction is funded in 2026. This has a small amount of earmark appropriation on the project, and the bulk of the remaining funds are local funds for this project. Truck parking is also significant for our region. We are in the process of identifying those locations in several of the counties. The truck and freight site analysis PD&E study, is ongoing and is in the final stages of the phase, completing their engineering and environmental documentation. It's projected to be complete by the summer of 2024. We received funding from the National Highway Freight Program, which allows them to be able to use that funding for truck parking locations. And so we have that identified for Seminole County. The right-of-way acquisition is being done under the I-4 BTU North project and is partially funded in 24, which is current year, and 25, which is the first year of the tentative. And I will mention moving Florida forward, since these have been recent releases, the top project is really the only one within District 5 jurisdiction. It's the I-4 from Champions Gate to State Road 536 in Osceola County. This is a design build contract intended for spring of 2024. Construction phase to begin in 2025. These are 3 projects to help out in the Central Florida region with an I-4 focus. For the I-4 project, it's going to reconstruct I-4 to accommodate 3 general use lanes, aux lanes, 2 express lanes in the eastbound and the westbound direction from west of County Road 532 Champions Gate to east of County Road 522. The purpose of these projects, as we know, is really to help out improve safety, ensure the resiliency of our transportation network, and enhance Florida's supply chain and economic growth. So in summary, from MPO priority projects, we have 52 that are funded in the tentative work program for over $816 million. These projects, of course, also support the FDOT Compass as well. We have other funding opportunities, though, that we want to share. There's several grants that are out there, some of which came out through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Protect is a resiliency type concentrated grant. And there's also infra grant and Safe Streets and Roads for All grant opportunities. The contact person for the department that you could reach out if you're interested in any of those is listed there. Alice Giuliani, she would be able to guide and walk you through some of these opportunities. Previous MPO awards were received for the Safe Streets and Roads for All. And FDOT does support those, providing a letter of consistency for those applications. And that concludes the presentation. But what I would like to know here is there's the website for our work program public hearing, District 5. Again, you could go there and you can review the reports for the different counties as well as concentrate on a GIS map for maybe projects that you're interested in. If you want to make comments, you have the opportunity to be able to do so through the website, and we encourage those. And as a reminder, those are all due November 3rd.
Catherine, thank you. That was a lot of information. And Slade, I'll ask you to send that out to the committee members. Any questions for Catherine? Go right ahead.
Project. I represent Apopka, and I understand the budget went from 7 billion to 3 billion. And I understand all of that, but we were very disappointed that our safety project was removed. So in light of what you said, and so it's been converted into just a resurfacing project. So you also said that 15, 17, 18 years is the cycle. What could I expect for the department to come back and do the project that we were promised this year? Are we going to wait 18 years until they come back and resurface to do that safety project? Or is there some plan in place to revisit that? I can't imagine y'all tearing up a road to come back and retrofit. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you were good. I was just turning it on to be able to respond to you.
To do this project that we really wanted. Was there any
Right.
consideration about talking to the local jurisdiction about
That is-
partnering to keep the project, or potentially pushing that resurfacing project out a couple years until maybe the budget comes back around where you could do
Absolutely.
that project?
Absolutely. Everything that you mentioned was discussed at the department and will be coming back around for discussion with the locals. A lot of the funding discussions that we had talked about is looking to leverage that partner funding. If there are things that are needed or critical to the project, then once the design gets started, then we can come and assess, okay, what the funding is available, what funding can we all gather so we can implement those priority needs. Unfortunately, right now, some projects resurfacing have to go because of the payment condition. So there isn't the opportunity to be able to move it out because it's just further deteriorates the payment. So it has to stay within the year, and that's why it's just a resurfacing to be able to keep it there. But once it goes into design, that outreach will take place. And if there's critical needs, it is a plan to be able to come back and assess what those needs are for a possible project in the future, not have to wait for the next cycle before resurfacing happens again. So there will be coming back to each of the agencies to discuss what the opportunities are to add items and maybe the potential for a future project for those items.
But it won't be 18 years is what I'm trying to take something optimistic from this, to take back to my
That-
board.
We're definitely, the discussions have been that we're not going to wait the 18 years because those are critical needs now. So we'll have to discuss what are the opportunities to get there a lot sooner.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just looking at the list, very disappointed in the amount of projects Seminole County has. It's very deficient, I believe. We have a very important project in our city, Longwood, at State Road 434 and Ronald Reagan. And it used to be really high on the priority list, and it kind of dropped because some of it was funded, but that project still hasn't been put in there, and Seminole County is so low, and that project really just causes our whole city to be at a standstill. There's such congestion because of the 2 Sunrail crossings right there, and they tried to work with the Sunrail stuff, but it's still just as gridlock all the time. It'll back up half a mile in each direction when trains go through. Takes a long time to cycle back through, but I mean, it's probably not the long-term thing, but that project really needs to be pushed. And I don't know why, Seminole is so short on some of these projects, but I mean, as a project that is really important to the viability of our city of Longwood and Seminole County, I don't know why, it's kind of being ignored. The right of way is being finished, but it certainly is going to be finished and certified before then. So
I appreciate the comment, Chad. I think you brought it up last year and we did take it back to discuss it. I know that project is a matter of what do we need to get it to construction because you are funded to right away or through right away at this moment. We did discuss new projects. We have very little new projects entering. The one good thing about the cycle is that we were able to maintain everything that was in those planned 5 years without deleting anything. But the backside of that is unfortunately, you're not able to add anything new. Because there's just not enough to be able to supplement anything, but that still remains a priority. We still discuss them. We review them as we're building and we're balancing and we're trying to determine what we can add or delete. If something gets deleted, can we bring something back that has been deferred or is not funded in the past? All valid discussions. I will take the comment back and I will definitely share that with the others of the district.
Always. I'd like to echo Apopka's comments on the disappointment that the safety additions to the resurfacings have been removed. It's been really great working with District 5 on some of these resurfacings and seeing tangible improvements added to those scopes. I think if the district is going to be turning to us locals to contribute money to these projects, it's imperative we get involved earlier on because we also have to budget. We have the same cost increases that you all have for these things. So finding the right time early in design so that we can plan for that and get the right design. That's where the cost savings will be. And then I have a question if the current estimates account for the updates to ProWAG or if that is anticipated to come through contingency funds.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the ProWAG. I apologize for that acronym.
It's the Public Rights of Way Accessibility Guidelines. I think I got it right. Thank you. And so there are new requirements for installation of audible pedestrian signals and updates you have to make for ADA compliance based on if you're modifying a roadway.
I will have to go back and check on that to make sure. If it came in before we finalized, it would have been included because we would have updated estimates for that, but I will confirm.
Okay, they've been in draft form for many years and were just approved in July, but we are expecting that it will increase the cost of projects as well.
Okay, I will definitely have to confirm them because if it was in July, we do a lot of our estimates that lead into the tentative work program before July. We like to be done with those estimates by July 1st because it takes a significant effort to try to put everything together and balance and update. But if there are needs, then maybe if it went into place July 1st, If it's a fiscal year 25, our first upcoming lockdown, we have estimate updates that will occur in the spring. And if it was implemented from July 1st till that time, they will be reflected in those cost estimates, but I will confirm.
Anyone else? And I'm sorry, I forgot to ask on the last presentation if any of our TISBO mates have any questions. Okay, Catherine, thank you very much. Next, we have COC Fine from Florida's Turnpike Enterprise to tell us about their tentative work program.
Good morning, committee members. My name is COC Fine, and I'm with the Florida's Turnpike Enterprise. So first off, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present the tentative work program, specifically the Florida Turnpikes. So in Metro Plan Orlando, the Turnpike is proposing to fund $664 million in major projects within these 5 years. As a part of Florida Department of Transportation, Florida's Turnpike Enterprise considers the 5 pillars of the DOT compass when building our work program. These pillars are safety, resiliency, supporting a robust supply chain, technology, and workforce development. And this is all built around our communities. As one FDOT team, we follow the department's mission and vision as we help meet the state's transportation needs, ensure value to our customers, protect investors, and manage the turnpike system in a business-like manner. We do this all by providing a customer-oriented, environmentally sound, and user-financed toll facilities. Florida's turnpike system consists of limited access facilities and provides Florida's residents and visitors with a safe, efficient, and affordable means of travel. Turnpike facilities are in 6 FDOT districts and 20 counties. In Osceola, Orange, and Seminole counties, we have 127 miles of turnpike managed toll facilities. To help meet the state's transportation needs, the Turnpike primarily receives funding through user tolls and concessions at our service plazas. According to our bond covenants, the Turnpike must pay for operations and maintenance costs first. This includes the cost to collect and process toll payments. Then we must pay off debt on our bonds issued to construct major projects. It should be noted that due to our high credit rating, the Turnpike has historically benefited from some of the lowest borrowing costs in the toll industry. After that, we invest our revenue into renewal and replacement projects. So these are our resurfacing projects or any reoccurring improvements to our roadways. Finally, the Turnpike uses the remaining funds to pay for capital improvements. These capital improvements are our interchange and widening projects. The Turnpike has various ways of determining how projects get funded depending on project type. All our projects must demonstrate a transportation need and are prioritized accordingly. Each year, we look at observed traffic data and future projections across the entire system. We also consider environmental and economic feasibility. But of course, what is the most important to us is stakeholder input. It's very important and is considered throughout the entire project development process. So before I start my actual presentation, I would like to go over this document right here. You all should have had this document. This is the Turnpike's work program summary. So these are the highlights from our actual work program. Just to describe the document a little bit, just because my presentation is based off of this document, when you read this document, it should be the same information that I convey to you through this PowerPoint. So we're looking at this document and it's made up of 3 parts. The three parts are current construction projects on page 1 in that first table. So all those projects will be in construction or will be in construction in the next fiscal year. So this fiscal year or next fiscal year, those projects are under construction. The body of this actual document, which actually goes from page 3 to page 16, all those projects have construction funding within the 5-year work program. So construction hasn't happened yet for those projects, but they have the funding programmed within the 5 years. And then the final table on page 17. So those projects have PD&E design and right-of-way funding, but do not have any construction funding associated with those projects within the 5-year work program. These are the projects that you can look forward to in the future, being programmed with construction funding. It's kind of like looking forward to what we have in the future. Okay, with that being said, the projects that I'm going to go over are those projects in the body of this actual document that have construction funding within the 5 years. So let's start in Osceola County. So the widening of the Turnpike Main Line from Parton Settlement Road to Osceola Parkway, which has interchange improvements at milepost 249, which is Osceola Parkway itself. So that project has construction in fiscal year 2026. So under the funds column, you'll see a price. So that's the full project price for those phases that are included in there. So for the first project, right away in construction, in our work program will cost $9 million. The widening of the Turnpike Main Line from US 192 to Parton Settlement Road with interchange improvements at milepost 242, which is actually US 192. This project has construction funding from fiscal year 2026 through fiscal year 2027. And then the final project on this slide is the widening of the Turnpike Main Line from milepost 239 to milepost 242 with the construction of the full interchange at Nolte Road. And this has design build funding in 2026. Next slide. Resurfacing of the southern connector, also known as the State Road 417 in Osceola County. This project has construction in fiscal year 2025, and this is from milepost 0 to milepost 4. And we also have the Canoe Creek Service Plaza parking improvements, which has construction in fiscal year 2026. In Orange County, we have the construction of the new interchange on the Turnpike Main Line at Sand Lake Road, which has construction funding in fiscal year 2027. There's interchange improvements on the Turnpike Main Line at State Road 528 and at US 1792. This project has construction funding in fiscal years 2027 through fiscal year 2028. And the final project on the slide is the construction of a new interchange on the Turnpike Main Line at Taft-Bondland Road. And this is a reliever interchange. This project has construction funding in fiscal year 2027. Keeping in Orange County, we have the Hempel Avenue Bridge replacement over State Road 408. So this project has construction funding in fiscal year 2025. We have the Tismo interchange improvements on the Turnpike Main Line at State Road 50, which has construction funding in fiscal year 2025. Tismo interchange improvements on State Road 528 at John Young Parkway, which has construction funding in fiscal year 2026. Tismo interchange improvements on the State Road 429 at US 192, which has construction funding in fiscal year 2025. And the final project on the slide is the resurfacing of the Southern Connector extension, also known as State Road 417 from milepost 4 to milepost 8, which has construction funding in fiscal year 2025. The singular project that we have in Seminole County is the resurfacing of the Seminole Expressway, also known as State Road 417, which has construction funding in fiscal year 2025. So these projects on this slide, they have funds that were either added advanced, deferred, or deleted. So under the fiscal year column, you'll see a year. And those are current years with the funding, but it shows in the status column whether those funds were advanced, added, deleted, or deferred. So for the widening of the Turnpike Main Line from milepost 238 to milepost 239, we've advanced design and added right-of-way for those projects, for that project. For the Turnpike Main Line widening from State Road 408 to State Road 429, we've actually deleted design and right-of-way funding for those projects. For the interchange improvements on the Turnpike Main Line at State Road 50 in the Winter Garden Claremont area, we've added right-of-way funding for that project. For the widening of the State Road 429 from north of US 192 to Western Way, we've deferred design to 2025, and we've actually deleted right-of-way for that project. On other mainline, so this is the widening of the Western Beltway, State Road 429 from Western Way to Sidell Road. And we've deferred design funding to fiscal year 2025. And the final project on the slide is the widening of State Road 417 from 434 to north of Lake Mary Boulevard. So this project, we've deferred right-of-way to fiscal year 2026 through fiscal year 2027. So for more information on the Turnpike's tentative work program, you can visit the FDOT work program public hearing website and download the District 5 public hearing report when it becomes available. Turnpike's tentative work program projects can be found in this document or on the website at floridasturnpike.com. I'd also like to end this with a safety minute. So for the Turnpike, we like to encourage drivers to stay safely in your vehicle if possible and wait for help instead of getting out of your vehicle on our high-speed roads. Turnpike's traffic management staff are watching roadside cameras 24 hours a day and will deploy a road ranger or a FHP officer to send you assistance quickly. You can also dial *347 and you'll also get an FHP patrol person or a road ranger. But with that being said, I'd like to thank you once again for allowing me to present. But if there are any questions, I'll take those now.
I've got a question. Good presentation. Thank you. I saw that on the last page, there was $28 million in lighting projects in FY26. And I didn't know if those were occurring on projects that are being widened or if that was mainline just getting lighting upgrades in general.
Lighting upgrades, and that's on
The very last page of the
very
report.
last page.
I think it was. Maybe it was the next to last. Sorry.
What's the last?
Page 15.
Okay, so those lighting projects, they usually happen within other projects. We usually get them in wherever we can. I know they usually come in during resurfacing projects, I know, but they're actually part of more general projects like our widenings or interchange projects.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
And for those of us with the lazy minds, the star 347 is also FHP. So
Mhm.
it's easier for me to remember that.
Yeah, sure.
COC, thank you very much. Does our Tismo friends have any questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our last presentation is from our own Alex Trager, who's going to talk to us about how to smooth around the U.S. Census urban area boundary.
Away. Good morning, everyone. As noted on the agenda, I'm here to talk to you about a process that we go into every 10 years following the census, and that is smoothing our urban area boundary or adjusting our urban area boundary. Just a little bit of background, and as Slade announced earlier today, every 10 years we have to do three things as an MPO among others, but three core things every 10 years. Update our apportionment plan, as Slade mentioned, that has been approved by our board and transmitted to Tallahassee, our metropolitan planning area, the three counties, Orange, Osceola, and Seminole, which is our metropolitan planning area, and really around the state of Florida. All MPOs have an urbanized area, which I'll talk about today, but as it relates to their metropolitan boundary, the state of Florida does follow county boundaries. But the third item that we have to address, and it falls outside of the apportionment process, is updating our urban area boundary. So again, every 10 years we go through this process. It's prompted by the census and DOT, and then facilitated by FDOT and where there are MPOs. The MPO engages in this smoothing or adjusting process. Looking around the room, who was here 10 years ago, I know there's a handful of folks, but this is typically one of those relatively administrative items that we take on. It's mostly prescribed by federal guideline, how we update these, but we do have room to adjust, to smooth, to refine within reason. And that's really what I'm going to talk to you all about today. The U.S. Census did go through and conducted a census, right, in 2020. And at the same time, they updated their definitions for urban and rural. And especially with a group of planners, those terms have very different meanings to different people in different circumstances and different contexts. But for purposes of our urban area boundary, it primarily focuses on federal transportation funds and eligibility as it relates. And I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But again, the U.S. Census did delineate an urban boundary based on the updated methodology, which focused primarily on housing density. Historically, 2020, 2010 years past, the measure was population density. So population density at the census block. The methodology changed to housing density, which shows more of a developed landscape. So they saw that as a better proxy measure in determining the urban boundary. So we're at the juncture now where we can adjust that. So the Census Bureau has identified an urban area boundary based on their very rigid method, the same method all urban areas across the United States are set against. And this is our opportunity to refine that. In collaboration with DOT, they've taken a stab at what DOT believes to be the urban area boundary, but we're also at a place where we want to facilitate coordination with our local agency partners. So we've taken another look at it, considered the DOT proposed boundary. We also looked back at the 2010 boundary. Again, the method changed at the Census Bureau, but we still wanted to say what we called urban a decade ago. Maybe that still fits the bill in our minds and in our definitions. So we went through and adjusted to bring that in. We also looked at aerials and other land plans that our local partners have and tried to include those, bring those into our urban area boundary, knowing that federal funding eligibility on those transportation, that infrastructure is going to be really important to your jurisdictions moving forward. And then we also looked at a range of your local plans, comp plans, and other locally approved plans. So we went through that methodology and have put together what we consider a staff recommendation for that. Before I talk more about the next steps, I think this is really important to know because it came up multiple times during our functional classification discussions with you. Is this urban area boundary? Like I said, urban and rural means different things to different people, but this boundary is really exclusive to federal eligibility for Title 23 funding. That primarily relates to Metro Plan Orlando's TMA, Transportation Management Area Funds, SU, our Transportation Alternative Funds, and our Carbon Area Reduction Funds within the urbanized area, but it also has some implications to FEMA reimbursement. So keeping that in mind as it relates to federal reimbursements. As we're going through this smoothing process, bringing in a neighborhood or bringing in another population set doesn't grow our population numbers to bringing in more urban area or urban attributable funds. That is locked based on the census urban area boundary. We're doing more of a polishing exercise to make sure the line isn't too jagged and it looks understandable to most. And the last one, I think, is it really, really important to note that this urban boundary does not supersede any of your local comp plans or urban service provisions that you may have policy set at your county commissions or municipalities. So keeping that in mind, it really is primarily for metropolitan planning purposes. So with that, we have developed an online comment map, which will allow you to zoom in and out, focusing really on the edge, because we're really smoothing the boundary itself. So this map will let you follow the edge, look at the DOT proposed line or look at the census line. And the census lines that are in there are a bare minimum requirement. And this is probably not this is more for kind of just for visual purposes, but the map will let you kind of zoom in and out. But the census line we have to keep. There's no taking, if the census has designated as urban based on their methodology, it is urban. But this method allows us to add additional urbanized area into our boundary. So again, DOT took a stab at it. We reviewed theirs and I would say used a little bit of a wider brush in our adjustment process. But we're now at the time where we want to open this up to our local agency partners, let you provide feedback, your recommendations as we move forward. So this tool will let you kind of zoom in and with a comment editing feature, you can kind of draw over on top of the map saying, I want to include this area, I want to remove this area, or ask questions along the way. As it relates to calendar events, we've been in coordination with DOT for the past month, reviewing the regulations, reviewing what DOT and the census have proposed, and at the same time prepared the online comment map, which I'm actually going to be sending out to TAC and into the affected jurisdictions later this afternoon. But we are going into this agency review process, and we are asking you to dive into the material. I'll be providing a memo that provides more background context considerations for your review. But we are asking for all comments really by end of November, so we can use the first couple of weeks of December to work with your jurisdictions. If there's any concerns or we need to do any of that final coordination, we can do that with our goal of taking this to our board at their February meeting, which is your first meeting of the year. So this will happen ideally during our first cycle of 2024. Based on my look at the adjustments, our three counties obviously are impacted by this: the city of Orlando, the city of Winter Garden, and Apopka. Then as an Osceola County, it's really all hands on deck. The county, city of Kissimmee, and city of St. Cloud. And in Seminole County, the county, parts of Oviedo in the rural area, but also parts of Sanford as that area has grown as well. So I'm going to be sending a memo out to everyone who's on the TAC mailing list, so you can kind of look at the memo, dive into the map, provide your feedback. But I'm also going to be setting up one-on-one discussions with those affected jurisdictions, so we can talk about any questions that you have, and we can provide necessary clarification so you can provide feedback in good time. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them today. But as I mentioned, I will be sending out an email with a detailed memo and a link to the comment map early this afternoon for you to start that process. So if any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them today. Thank you.
As we move towards our action items, we'll do our first public comments. We'll ask that you provide your name and address for the record, and please hold your comments to 2 minutes or less. If any members of the board or the public wish to comment and are joining us virtually, please use the raise hand function and you'll be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make comments?
Mr. Chair, we do not have any hands raised on the virtual side.
Thank you very much. Do we have any members in the public, Rachel, to comment?
Mr. Chairman, I've not received any comments.
Thank you very much. And we did have, or did we receive any comments, written comments?
We did not receive any prior to the meeting.
Okay. All right, so on to our action items. Our first is for our August 25th, 2023 TAC meeting minutes. Hopefully you've had a chance to review those. And do I have a motion on the meeting
Chad Smith,
minutes?
motion to approve.
Chad, thank you. A second?
Second, Ramon Center's.
Thank you. I have a first and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next we have the appointment for subcommittee to review the TAC bylaws and select officers for next year. And Slade will fill us in on that.
Thanks. Yes, it is that time of year again. We need to select officers as well as we're due for a review of the TAC bylaws. We need to nominate 3 people to create a subcommittee, 1 from each county. Keep in mind, whoever from TAC serves on that subcommittee does not necessarily have to be from the county government, could be from a town or city within that county. So I will turn it back over to Bill to do the official action for calling for nominations. One kind of sub note is if you are interested in becoming either chair or vice chair, traditionally, that person is not on the selection subcommittee, but that's an unwritten rule. You're welcome. The subcommittee can elect one of its own. That's fine. Back to you, Bill.
Any nominations put forward by the committee?
I'll nominate Bill Wharton for Severin County.
I'll respectfully decline that. I'm happy doing it once. Thank you very much, though.
Okay, I nominate.
And I think sitting as chairman, it might be easier not to.
No, I thought that is for the committee
Yeah. I
to,
don't know if we do that.
I thought for the committee to select
Right,
to nominate.
right.
Yeah, as far as I know, you can be on the subcommittee if you
Right,
want.
the subcommittee to
Okay,
subcommittee, not
You
you
can-
not to be on.
right. Thank you.
You can
Jumping
still
the gun.
decline though if you want.
Well, I'll leave my name out there. If we get more than 3, then I'll be happy to drop off. Any others? Well, everybody jump up at once. You nominate your coworker. That's the best part. So,
I will nominate Jacques Coulon for City of Orlando / Orange County.
and who is it?
I'll nominate. Sure. Okay. And I'll nominate Nick Hartley for Osceola County.
Oh, that's okay. So we have 3.
Sorry,
Any others?
there were overlapping nominations there, but I would accept Steve's nomination.
Okay, any others? All right, so we have myself. Who else do we have? Slade?
Jacques Coulon and Nick Hartley.
Okay. All right, so I have a motion to accept those members for the TAC bylaws and the officer selection subcommittee.
I move to select those people to the committee.
Thank you, Chad. And a second?
I'll second that.
Second. Any discussion? All right, very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, and Slade will set up a meeting between now and the next TAC meeting for us all to get together and pull names out of the hat or something. We'll see.
Yeah, if y'all could just hang back for a couple minutes after we adjourn so we can swap schedules and things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And y'all may be timid about selecting people. We're not gonna be, so I'll forewarn you of that. Okay, our last action item is the 2020 functional classification of public roadways. And Jim Wood from Kimley Horn is here and will fill us in on that.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. Yes, I'm Jim Wood with Kimley Horn. We are consultant support to DOT District 5 for the functional classification and urban boundary process. So I'm here today on behalf of DOT. The department first came to the MPO committees a little over a year ago in August, September of 22 to talk about these processes. And of course, Alex was just giving the update of where things are with the urban boundaries. that continues in progress, and we'll be working on that over the next few months. But here today for the culminating step for functional classification and getting to this final stage of approval that'll hopefully precede the board's vote on November 8th in support. Most of you are familiar with functional classification, but just reminding again, it is a federal method that's used to assign roadways into a hierarchy of classifications based on their character, the services they provide. And one of the issues which Alex also talked a little bit about is funding eligibility is one of the factors people ask, what is the implication of functional classification? And there are federal levels of funding available for things that are classified as a minor collector in an urban area on up, so arterials and interstates. And the example, of course, that's often given is that FEMA funding would be available for those corridors. Anything that's a minor collector in rural or local and urban and rural would not have that same eligibility. Considering functional classification does not drive or define the approach for roadway design, and it does not necessarily limit or constrain changes to that corridor. So for example, a principal arterial, one of the higher classifications, could be a 6-lane corridor that's being evaluated for lane repurposing from 6 to 4 lanes, and that is still appropriate to do. Having said that, if a corridor's character and service of use changes over time, it may be appropriate to change the classification in the future. So it kind of follows from the manner in which that corridor is providing service. As I mentioned, we started with the committee presentations last year, and then we had a succession of presentations or really check-ins to this committee in the spring as we went through the review process. We had initial outreach meetings to the 3 counties in the city of Orlando on the front end of that because of the extent of the roadways in those areas that were going to be evaluated. As part of that process, we used the dashboard and the application to help kind of understand the difference between the current and proposed classification, and then provide the mechanism for the comments. So Jason Lerner was in particular kind of the lead for these efforts. So during the comment period, we received input from multiple agencies. This isn't all of them, but these are those that we had actual meetings with. Some of you were in those discussions, and we just want to say on behalf of the department, appreciate Metro Plan's coordination and all the agencies providing the good input to get to where we are today. So the agenda packet includes a 12-page map set that is representative of the 3 counties, and the more map sheets for Orange is simply because there's more to show there and to kind of make it a little bit more readable. But at the end of the day, when these are approved, they will be 3 separate maps for the respective counties. So we're seeking approval today for these maps, just kind of a matter of approach how this is going to move forward is once these are approved, they'll kind of be on hold as we go through the urban boundary process. And then in the spring, when those are both done, the Metro Plan Board Chair would sign both sets for urban boundaries as well as functional classification. So, Mr. Chair, that's the conclusion of my remarks.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay, so this is for approval of the functional classifications. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll
And
second.
Chad, second.
Chad Smith, second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. Okay, so we have no TAC only presentations. There is the traditional general information in tab 3 of your packets. Our next meeting is December 1st, so don't show up here in November. And I hope everyone has a good Turkey Day. Next Metro Plan Board meeting will be Wednesday, November 8th. And are there any other member comments on any subject today or any other areas? Very well.
Before we move on to public comment, just wanted to give one more announcement of we're going to be sending out emails to affirm TAC membership. That's just to kind of keep our records in order for the beginning of 24. There've been a lot of staff changes, so we just want to make sure we've got the right names for everyone. So just wanted to give everyone a heads up that those will be in your inboxes sometime within the next month or so.
Thank you. And again, for the public comments, the same comments as before. If you're here in person, provide your cards to Rachel. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
No, Mr. Chair, we do not have any hands raised on the virtual side.
Thank you. That is so cool. I have to admit. Do we have anyone, any members of the public attending, Rachel, that would like to make a comment?
Mr. Chairman, I have not received any comments.
Thank you. Do we receive any written comments, Slade?
No written comments received.
Thank you very much. Without any other comments, then we will adjourn the meeting at 11:30. Thank you.